And this is going to be another fantastic game. I'm really looking forward to this. We've got Bob Lynn, not to be confused with Bob Lynn, the American. I was present in January at the UK Open for the absolutely remarkable fixture of Bob Lynn versus Bob Lynn. And to everyone's shock, as James Burley announced in his capacity as TD, Bob Lynn actually won that fixture. I personally could not believe that result. And he's playing John Matthews. John is an absolutely lovely fella. I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's one of the first people I ever met when I joined the scene back in 2018. Yeah, very nice chap. He's solidly in the 150s. I think Bob is about the same, possibly scraping into the 160s. So a very evenly matched game here. And in fact, if I transition us over, audience, to the enhanced scoreboard, we will just, you can see that little countdown in the top right, 3, 2, 1, and that should move. Indeed. Brian and Harshan now the only players on 6-0. Absolutely fantastic. It's really hotting up at this point. I'm just seeing if I can see either of our players on the board there. I'm not seeing Bob, so he's probably a little further down. John Matthews just sneaking in there, position 20 on 2-4. But of course, it's very early days, folks. And the players are just bagging up now. And yeah, we're going to get going. Let me just change the names of the players. So, kicking us off, we've got Bob Lynn. And again, he's up against John Matthews. Two absolute gentlemen of the scene. Delighted to see them both on stream playing each other and giving us some good old-fashioned Scrabble entertainment. So let's transition us over. John has started the clock and we're kicking off with Bob. Let's see what he draws into. And just talk amongst yourselves, folks. While you look at the opening racks, I just need to set the Quackle up now that I've lost my co-commentator Stuart for the last game. So I just need to connect this to the stream so that you can see the Quackle as I do. Great, that should all be done. So, an interesting rack to start us off for Bob. Looks like what he needs to do is just blow this up, hold on to the T and stick purely down. It looks like, yeah, he's going for a very similar idea here of Pertley, which pretty much does the job as well. And we move over to John, who's got a pretty crazy rack to open. 3 A's, a V, G, and the Q. And as you would expect with a rack like this, his options are absolutely all over the place. As I look through Quackle's options, I'm seeing exchanges. I'm seeing the Q going down, leaving absolutely insane leaves. He does actually have a standout play, simply cat, and that is what he's gone for. Quackle approves. And we move back over to Bob, who's got an awkward rack, but he has drawn into the first blank, which you'll be delighted to see. Nothing inspiring with this rack. So whatever he does here is essentially going to be a holding play. His top scoring play is no more than 19, from what I can see. He's probably going to be doing something that involves the cue. Yeah. Well, okay, so this is actually not a move I expected. I respect the volatility. Setting up an S lane, which John can surely infer, given that Bob's only scoring 16 there. I was thinking more along the lines of simply dumping OI next to the Q, but this is a radically different path and certainly makes for a more exciting game. So we go back to John. Who thankfully did not triplicate those two A's that he held on to when he played cat. And he's gone ahead and played vagina. Which looks like quite a sound play. Opens a new sevens lane onto the triple. Could be quite dangerous, given that, as I said previously, Bob created an S lane for only 16 points, from which John can probably infer a strong rack. Or, of course, Bob was just dumping off vowels. In this case, with the blank, it was really a case of both of those things being true. But regardless, Bob has waded into quite muddy waters here, but he has got a lot of firepower. He's going to be absolutely fine. He can score very nicely here as he chooses. So just taking a bit of time, perfectly understandable, because there's many routes that Bob could go down here. Whatever he does, he is of course going to be using that lane, and he's opted in the end for Haw, H-A-W. And we move back to John. Who's got a tricky rack to deal with again. He's actually got a multitude of bingos here. And in fact, through a blank C or I, he's found the absolutely fabulous Omnicron. That's a beautiful find. It doesn't play on the board, but very nice vision from John. And he's gone ahead with Mong. I do need to read out some of these bingos because they're all really impressive. If you found any of these in the audience, we've got non-moral, Norimon, Monoron, Monuron, Norimon, and non-metro. So well done if you found any of those. That being said, Mong, perfectly serviceable holding play there from John for 14. And we move back over to Bob, who continues to struggle slightly through a surfeit of consonants, but it's nothing he's not going to be able to deal with, especially with that blank in tow, and of course he's got a lovely S as well to help him out. Now here's a puzzle for the audience. Bob actually does have a single playable bingo here. Just give you a minute to have a look around, see if you can find that. I'm going to give you a clue coming in 5 seconds. So the clue is that it's an 8. And as you would probably expect, it is through the E. And if you need any more help, the blank is an O. Now, a player of Bob's calibre, I will expect, will have to have studied this. Of course, finding it in-game with a blank, very different, never mind the fact that he's also on stream. But if he misses this, it's really not the end of the world. He'll be keeping a strong lead, whatever he does. Just communicating with our producer Ruth on the ground there. Now that I'm on my own, I'm having to do a bit more admin while I keep in line with what's going on in the game. So Bob unfortunately hasn't found that bingo. That was binocles, similar to binoculars. In fact, I believe it's the same. I believe they're synonymous, although don't quote me on that. So he's gone ahead with Bice for 8, getting rid of his clunkers, not scoring anything, but obviously holding the S blank. And I need to do this very quickly because John has played that really fast. It looks like he's playing Romanos with a blank M, I would assume. So I'm going to go ahead and input that, assuming it's an O. And I just need to update the score. In fact, I will hold off. Well, hang on, let me update the score. But it does look like that's on hold from Bob. He's writing, so I don't know whether he's... oh no, I think he's accepted the play, actually. I think he's accepted it. Lovely find from John. Very nice, well done. Romanos puts him in the lead. 130 to Bob's 86. Very nice. And back over to Bob, who's still sitting on that J. He's not going to be bingoing this turn, but he's got some lovely scoring options using up both of those clunky tiles in one go. And assuming he finds one of these, which of course he will, it puts him at slightly north of 50% winning chances. So essentially, folks, what that means is we've got a lovely even game for our last fixture of the day. And yeah, that was never in doubt. Bob gone ahead and found his highest performing play of joy for 36. And we move back to John, who's drawn into a tricky rack. Surfeit of vowels, the dreaded UW combination. Got a G thrown in there as well, so nothing especially inspiring here, folks. That being said, as I've noted throughout the day, the very best players still find the winningest plays, even among these medium nondescript racks. Now for John, he does actually have a standout play of Woo, W-O-O, on the far right of the board, making Mongo a fairly obscure hook. He has gone for Grow, which achieves quite a lot as well, so that's a perfectly serviceable play. Holding play there by John. And we move back to Bob, who I think is finally going to be able to cash in on this blank that he's been sitting on for a few turns now. That is going to boost him into the lead. And it's actually going to give John a little bit of trouble, because John is sitting on a pretty horrendous rack, 6 vowels. The question now is just, what is Bob actually going to play? I think that's going to be lounges. Yep. So nicely done by Bob. Turns like this, where you have a plethora of bingos, it's easy to get embroiled in agonizing for minutes over perfect placement. Practically speaking, most of the time, that's not the best way to play. Just get something down if they're all much of a muchness. So that puts John Bob, sorry, onto 197, and it's John on turn with 149. He's sitting on a rack of 6 vowels. You hate to see it. He's lining up O, E, A, U. He does have the option of playing the famous 6-vowel, 6-letter word uwe, which is a synonym of the Scrabble famous word uoi. It's the same word. It's an interjection of Barkic frenzy. However, he's gone for outer, which is Quackle's second favourite play, only after outgrow, extending John's previous play of grow. Outer, yeah, leaving 3 E's. If you're going to triplicate any letter, then yeah, fine, make it an E. Could be a lot worse. John has drawn a 4th E, but as I just said, if you're going to have 4 of any letter, you can't, you'd probably take an E. So it's still very much anyone's game. There's 30 points in it. Bob's got some lovely scoring potential here, though. He's got 30 points on offer, making leafed. And in fact, Quackle is actually favouring that move. So that's leafed off the L of lounges, taking out the threat of that triple word. And leaving decently as well with DI. And Bob, tantalisingly, yes, he's found his highest performing move. Very well done. With leafed. Now, John, it was funny with 3 E's. This is less funny. 4 E's. You hate to see it. This is a very tricky situation. There's really no reason to despair yet. John's winningest play still puts him at about 25% winning chance, so he's absolutely not out of this game by any means. Let me just update the score there for you folks. So that puts Bob 60 ahead. So as you might expect, according to Quackle, John's best play here is simply dumping off 2 E's. He can do that next to the F, creating a new 7s lane. He's gone for a similar move, achieving roughly the same. I would have liked to have seen him keep the R to balance that rack in terms of vowel consonants. And actually, John has played fast. He had the luxury of time to have a little bit more thought there, but it really isn't the end of the world. So the play is re. The other thing is, of course, that doesn't massively set up a 7s lane because EE takes almost nothing after it. Well, not almost nothing, but it's less helpful than FE to play off. And we move back to Bob, who's got a similarly uninspiring rack. The difference being, though, that he is 40 ahead and on turn. Bob's winning chances creeping up with every passing move. He's currently just shy of 80% winning chance at this point, according to Quackle. His standout play here appears to be very nondescript looking Guile, Guile, off that G in lounges for just 12 points, setting up a new 7s lane. And a hotspot with that E going in both directions. I honestly don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to keep simming because I feel like that's going to fall down eventually, surely. No, maybe not. No, Quackle does like it for whatever reason. Okay. Wow. Very well caught there by Bob. Very well caught. So if you didn't see that, folks, Bob nearly played the three-letter EEE, which unfortunately is a phony. I mean, in my opinion, that should be perfectly valid. It's something I say all the time when I'm home alone. But it would have been challenged off in this instance. Interesting decision here from Bob. If he'd had a little more of a think there, he would have... Actually, no, I was going to say he would have played elude, but then, of course, he would be keeping double I, so elide is fine. Yeah, no, I retract that statement. That's a perfectly serviceable play there. So, yeah, elide is the play. And we move back over to John. And his rack is improving slowly. You love to see the Z. You always love to see the Z. I would guess possibly the most powerful tile after the blank. Maybe after the S as well. I mean, it really depends on the metric, but you know what I mean. Winning chance is still quite slim here. 60 behind. John really just keeping pace at this point. He's not been able to fire ahead with anything, but there's still a lot of play to be had here, folks. So John going ahead and playing Maze, which Quackle approves of. It's its second favourite play, only after Metse through the E of elide. I'm not sure how I feel about Maze, but then obviously I haven't had as much time to think about the move as John. Instinctively, it seems like it gives too much back, both with the Z next to the double word and also the hooks on Maze. But genuinely, with all the admin I'm doing this side for both players, I haven't had time to consider that rack. It's just my initial thought. So John may well have been correct there. And as I say, it was Quackle's second favourite move. And who am I to argue with Quackle? So yeah, absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. We move back to Bob. And he's going to be able to carry on applying the pressure here if he so wishes. He's got some nice options here. Holding his S in unfit, making MEU. You can also make hunt, making MEH, setting up his S. Probably no need to do that in this situation. He's got a crazy 6, making mazes, which I have never seen in my life, of shifty. I am going to go and check whether that takes an S. I assume it does, in which case maybe you wouldn't play it. It does take the S because it hangs over the triple word. Although there'd be no doubting the style points, of course, there. I like to see Bob taking his time here. Both players doing very well on the clock. I'd like to see John taking a little more time. He's doing exceptionally well on his clock. He really has the luxury for the remainder of this game of really considering each and every move that he puts on the board here. There's no rush. Yeah, this is a very nice play from Bob. It achieves multiple things. Takes out the threat of the multiple hooks to maze of the R, the D, and the S that could have been open to John. And scores well. keeps the pressure on his opponent. We move back to John, who's got some scoring power in the V and the K. Can he do much with them? Actually, you know what? He can. He can quite simply dump off that EK on the Z, making Zek. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and do that. And I did say I'd like to see him spend a bit more time on this occasion. Really not that much to think about with that play, and actually now putting just a hint of time pressure on his opponent, Bob Lynn. Nicely done by John. And we move back to Bob Lynn. I think that's a T on the far left of his board, of his rack. So what options has Bob got here? It's a clunky rack, so whatever he does is not going to be leave a particularly awe-inspiring leave. I'm just running a sim on Quackle. At the moment it's liking perhaps Pfui, Pfui, onto the I of Bice, which gets rid of the three worst tiles on his rack, keeping a nice leave of DINT. I actually really like that, you know. But it's going to get interesting because just looking ahead slightly to John, whatever Bob does here, it's not going to score fabulously well. Most of his candidate plays do nothing to address the S-hook on Zek, which, to be fair, Bob could not have inferred John had. Zek's just a pretty standard tile-dumping play, but John probably going to have something scory onto Zek. However, Bob has made the one candidate play that does really gunk up that spot, and in fact it means that John now cannot use that S hook on Zek and hit the double word. Perhaps that factored into Bob's thinking there, but either way it puts John at a 50-point deficit on turn. He's seen that he has a victors through a non-existent O. In actual fact, his candidate plays... What's he got? Interesting, yeah. Candidate plays really all over the place here. He can blow up the rack for 43 with evicts, making EW on the far right of the board, leaving an R. He could go a totally different way and just dump that V, making div off the DI that Bob has just created with Fid for just 7 points, but leaving sighters and creating a pretty nice, well, not an incredibly lucrative lane. The E or an A would need to be, or an I would need to be in second position there, but it certainly does something to the board, beneficial to John potentially. And this is also very nice. I like this play from John. Opens a new sevens lane. I must point out though, far and away his standout play on Quackle was evict, so not evicts with the S, but holding the S, because he's got the case S. Both blanks have now been played. That would have given Bob serious pause for thought. And again, just to gently critique John, probably could have spent a bit more time just looking at his tracking there, realising he's holding the case S, and then considering how he might leverage that. Of course, absolutely no slight on John there. He may have even considered that option, unbeknownst to me, and simply decided it wasn't worth it. So, as I say, divvy a very serviceable option here. And in fact, we do see John has drawn into a bingo. And that's really, really going to spice this game up. That being said, I move back over to Bob, who is 40 points in the lead. He's drawn the X. And like John in the previous move, he can either score a lot, and with XI, or go totally other way and blow up the rack holding the X with something like Tapuna, blocking that new lane John's just created with Divi. Bob going something of a middle ground with Lanx. I really like this play, good vision. He's blocked that new sevens lane that John has just created. And in fact, he's blocked Cotters, which John was going to be throwing down immediately onto making whores. Much more pause for thought now here for John. He does have, however, folks, a solitary bingo, and it's not an easy one. He has one playable 8-letter word, and in fact it fits perfectly. It's through that N that Bob has just laid out in space with Lanx. And we do see that John hasn't spotted that, so that play was cornets, which would have been a lovely find. That being said, John's play of octets, also very nice indeed. Again, as with the play of Evict, he could have held that case S and given Bob a lot of trouble blocking it up. That being said, he has scored and kept the pressure on. And we move back to Bob Lynn. He's got quite an ugly rack here, 2 I's and a U. You can completely sort it all out with unrip. And in fact, wow, do you know what? It's been such a low scoring game. I didn't realise we were at the end. We're now in the end game because it's been so low scoring. Wow, that's incredible. And to be clear, again, absolutely no slight on the players. I love a low scoring game, tight and tactical. Just one bingo apiece here for the players. You really don't see that very often, especially at the top level that we're seeing here on the streamed board at Winter Matchplay. So to be clear, Bob Lynn here has many, many winning moves. And this is almost certainly academic now. I think he's going to find one of these, no problem at all. Tough going for John Matthews, who, as I say, I've got a lot of time for. He's fought well in this game. And I think, folks, actually, if I look back at my own analysis, I've not been able to keep eyes on how close we were to the end of the game, which may sound odd, but I think simply because there's so much admin to do when I'm new to this as well, running it solo. Anyway, I think if John had floated octet or evict above that double word, threatening his case S, may have been a different story here. Now Bob is going for, is it going to be input? Is it just in? Looks like he's not committed to play yet. Interestingly, from an entertainment perspective, this is actually not one of Bob's 100% winning plays. Neither is unit, interestingly, and again, he's not committed this play. He's got time. I would assume he's still going to win regardless, but it's he's got some stronger options available. So just to run through those, he's got unrip, making XU, Puir, Puir, to the left of octets. They are his two standout plays. He's really thinking about unit here. He's just going to see whether he can go out in 2 spots with his remaining IPR. Okay, he's picking it up again. Inti. Okay. Okay, so the play is Inti. And again, interestingly, not actually one of his 100% winning plays. I do believe that's going to be academic, but we're just going to see how this plays out. Let me update the score there for you folks. So we move to John Matthews' final move. And yes, it is academic, as I thought. He's 46 points behind. Nothing particularly inspiring to do here, I'm afraid. He has a standout top play of re-grow, again extending the grow that he played earlier up top. That would score 26. And that's going to do it for our coverage today, folks, as we play out the remaining tiles in this endgame. I'll just take the opportunity to say, on a personal level, thank you very much for joining us. I know you're not watching this live, but hopefully some of you will be watching this back. It's been a great privilege to have been asked by producer Rick Kennedy to anchor this stream. It means a great deal to me, especially as given my work situation at the moment, I'm not really able to be playing in tournaments, certainly not majors. So this is really helping me with the FOMO, as it were. And yeah, just delighted to be here and emulating some of my idols, such as Will Anderson, David Webb, just absolute legends of the game who I've listened to for years, providing commentary and analysis, and hoping that in some small way I can bring my own flavour to this ever-expanding realm of entertainment, folks. So yeah, thank you very much. John has played Brits for 13. And do you know what? The players are not even going to be that late for dinner. I reckon the meal is still going to be hot and waiting for them in the hotel restaurant just down the corridor. So let me check. Bob could go out here. He's got two ways of going out. Puri onto the Eye of Bice and Rurp off the R in Pertley. He's gone with Gup. John likewise could go out with his DEL. He's played off his DE. He's done that so quickly I can't quite see where it is. Jade. Nicely done. And with a minute on his clock, Bob just has the R to go out with. And he finds his highest scoring play of row. I'm going to save that one more time, folks, so the score updates for you. And the final score, with plus minus, rather than exactly what you're going to be seeing on the screen, which is the doubling of the lead, is going to be Bob Lynn, 359, to John Matthews, 321. Very interesting, tight, tactical, uncomfortable game, I will say, for both players. As I said, just one bingo apiece. You don't see that very often at all at this level of Scrabble. And it's been a pleasure to commentate for both of these guys who I've known for years at this point. Lovely gentlemen, both of them. And again, folks, I'll just say, once again, thank you very much for joining me today on the stream. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring this to you.